The Hyundai Grand i10 Nios and the Volkswagen Polo are not cars that you typically see in a head-to-head comparison, but there's a reason we have both of them with us together today. Both of these cars are now available with the option of new-gen 3-cylinder direct injection turbo-petrol engines, and both of those cars cost about the same money. So they're comparable on price, but how do they compare on spice? The Polo and Grand i10 are also available with naturally aspirated engines at lower price points. But this Polo TSI manual that costs 7.89 lakh rupees ex-showroom in Highline Plus guys and the 7.81 lakh rupee Grand i10 Nios Turbo are for small car buyers who are open to spending more for added power. You've seen these cars before, so let's get straight to the juicy bits. Powering both cars are new age 1-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol engines. In power and torque, it's the Polo with the slight upper hand with 110 HP and 175 Nm to the Grand i10 Nios Turbo's figures of 100 HP and 172 Nm. But how do the numbers translate in the real world? I'll start with the Polo that's got a new lease of life with the new engine. VW's 1.0 TSI engine is an International Engine of the Year award winner, and spend some time with one and you'll understand why. Now this is a small car with really big punch. There's a rush of power at about 2000 RPM that stays till 6000 RPM and beyond. It's quite a thriller. You'll enjoy extending the engine and getting in a quick shift on the 6-speed gearbox. There's just so much fun to be had on an open road where other elements of the Polo also come into play. What really elevates the Polo to the next level is the handling experience. Now, turn-in is neat, there's a good feeling of connect at the steering wheel, and there's lots and lots of grip, so you can really exploit what this hatchback has to offer. There's really so much in it for keen drivers. The steering is well calibrated, the brakes are well calibrated, the gearbox is fun to go through. Who said a 10-year-old car can't be a fun car? On the matter of age, what there's no escaping in the Polo is that this is a decade-old car. Now there are many things to like about the cabin. I really like the look and feel of the flat-bottom steering wheel, and there is a hard-wearing look to everything else inside the cabin. But the dashboard is dated in look. These analog dials also give the car's vintage away, and even things like the position of the touchscreen. Now you'd expect it or want it to be high up and in your line of sight, but it's not, and these are things that you just have to make your peace with in the Polo. There are also some points to bring up about what the Polo is like in humdrum everyday drives. Path throttle responses are decent in the Polo. It picks up speed quite easily from about 1200 RPM or so. But if you want a bit more, you want to make a quick overtake, you will have to be mindful to be in the right gear. Speaking of which, there is more effort needed on the Polo's gearbox. The clutch is longer in travel, and the steering is also that little bit heavier to twirl. There's also a slight firmness to the ride in town. Do note the Polo rides on larger 16-inch rims. Over to the Grand i10 Nios, and first things first, it is the easier car to drive in town. The Hyundai's engine is a little bit friendlier than the VW Polos, granting you access to power at a lower RPM. What you'll also note is that the Grand i10 Nios has the softer setup and rounds off the bumps better than the Polo. And in town, you will appreciate the lighter steering weight too. But that's not entirely what this version of the Nios is about. If you're familiar with the standard 1.2-litre Nios petrol, you will notice the added grunt on this one. There is a proper mid-range, it just feels more energetic throughout the power band and just makes overtakings that whole lot easier. There's no comparison between standard and turbo Grand i10 Nioses in flat-out performance, with the 9.82 second 0 to 100 kph time being the headline figure here. The Polo is just marginally behind but has bragging rights with a sub 10 second 0 to 100 kph time of its own. Things are different through the gears, however. When you're driving hard, you'll note that the Nios Turbo doesn't rev as quickly as the VW Polo does. That's perhaps a function of its 5-speed gearbox rather than a 6-speed unit as on the Polo, and also a result of its taller gearing. Third gear, for instance, is good for 164 kph. You can wind the Hyundai engine pretty hard, and you like how the friendly Nios changes character when you do so. The feeling is of being in a cheeky little car that can liven up boring commutes. But does the Nios deliver on fun driving roads? Well, it doesn't feel as tied down as the Polo at any point. The steering feels inconsistent when you're around the corners, and even the levels of grip are well below what you get in the VW. There's plenty of body roll, and around long corners, it's the Nios' tires that gave up well before the chassis does. Of the other things, there's also more of that 3-cylinder thrum in the Nios, and in general, the cabin is noisier than the Polos. There are certain things that help the Nios' case. The Nios does put drivers at more ease. You sit slightly higher up, and the glass area is larger as well. The Hyundai Grand i10 Nios' cabin definitely feels the airier of the two, and I like what they've done with the interior theme. I like this all-black theme with the red detailing on the vents, the red stitching on the seats. It all adds that little bit extra flavor and differentiates this version from the rest of the range. The dashboard is thoughtfully styled, the touchscreen is placed high up and in clear sight, and it's all very user-friendly. That said, an irritant on the Nios Turbo is the absence of a rear wiper. The screen can relay the feed from the rear camera on the go, but it's not a great help on rainy days. Talking features, the Polo TSI Highline Plus and Grand i10 Nios Turbo Sports get touchscreens with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, auto climate control and rear AC vents. The Hyundai also gets a wireless mobile charger, but it's the Polo that packs in more with cruise control and auto-dimming rear-view mirror and rain-sensing wipers. Steering reach adjust, a rear wiper and even auto up-down for all 4 windows are also offered only on the Polo. Neither car gets push-button start-stop or keyless entry. In terms of safety, both cars get you dual airbags, ABS and rear parking sensors, though only the Nios has a rear camera. That said, the solid thunk on door shut speaks volumes of the Polo's build, and it's also the VW with a superior 4-star rating by Global NCAP. The Nios managed a 2-star rating. You've seen these cars before, so I won't go deep into the looks. The Polo is longer and looks the more wholesome car too, but there's no denying that this is a shape we've seen for far too long. Also, while the Polo is longer in its wheelbase, rear seat space is quite limited. It's the Nios Turbo that offers greater legroom, and there's also more headroom thanks to the higher roof. Those small fixed headrests though are a negative. On the outside, the Nios' design is new age Hyundai, which means it is polarizing. In terms of luggage space, both cars offer enough room for a weekend trip's worth of bags. So, which hatchback should it be? If you're primarily looking for an easygoing city commuter that also has a sporty side, the Grand i10 Nios Turbo is the one for you. The Hyundai is also the more practical pick by virtue of its roomier interior. But if things like performance, handling, braking and the overall driving experience top your list of priorities, the Polo TSI is the easy pick of the duo. Sure, the VW is not free from compromise and it's old too, but it's also the car that'll leave you grinning wider on your favorite driving roads. Like the Rolling Stones then, the VW Polo is a car that's rocking well past its prime.